Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's second half. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? All right, everybody. Today I have a subscriber who I just spent about an hour speaking with. He was a guide and, he was a professional guide in Idaho, I believe. I know. And super nice guy. I haven't heard any of his experiences yet because I want to be where you guys are. So right now I'm going to turn the mic over to Phil. Phil, how are you, my friend?
All right, I'm great, man.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you reaching out to me. I'm glad that I saw your comment and you saw me. I commented right back. I saw that you were a guide and I was like, oh man, this guy's got some stuff right here. And, we talked, we're pretty much on the same page as a lot of things. And I'm looking forward to hearing about your experiences and what you've seen out in the woods, because you spent a lot of your time just working in the woods. So the mic is yours, my friend.
Okay. Yep. I appreciate the time and just the opportunity to maybe help somebody or fit a couple puzzle pieces for somebody like we were talking earlier. But I'll maybe just start from, like you say, usually I'll just start from the beginning and go from there.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Well, like a lot of people, I grew up watching the Bigfoot TV shows and always, never fully could truly believe, but was always really intrigued and interested. And I was probably in middle school or something when the Finding Bigfoot and all that came out. And yeah, I watched a lot of that. And then life started, and you kind of get away from the cryptid scene sometimes. And so fast forward, I was 19, and I grew up in Iowa, and I moved out to Arizona, and ended up staying in the mountains for like 15 years, and guided hunts in Idaho and Montana and Colorado, and managed some guide schools along the way. And so anyway, it all started really with me moving out west to Arizona. And when I got out there, we we started camping and mountain biking and living the desert life, which was totally new to me. I chose Arizona, because my grandpa got older and moved out there, so we'd visit him. But so anyway, the first strange thing really that ever happened to me that I really can't explain was outside of Phoenix. I was living in Tempe, and we would go to Coon Bluff State Park, just, I don't know, half-hour drive from like Tempe, and you go through Apache Junction, Mesa and Apache Junction, and get onto the desert. And so me and a buddy were out there, and we'd call it cowboy camping, but sleeping bag next to the fire and sleeping under the stars, and college age, so we were having a couple beers, and we walked back to the truck, and nobody else was there, middle of winter. And we look over, and above where we were camping was, I suppose it's, the place is called Coons Bluff, and it's a bluff there that people would, I had seen, kind of rock climbing. I saw them rappelling off this bluff, probably like a 40-foot, straight down to the Salt River. Just a small. Well, in the rainy season, that river isn't small, but at the time, just a small. Of course, there's not much water in the wintertime in Arizona, but right. So anyway, we on top of this Coons Bluff is just a red light, and it was a little too far away to, knowing what I know now, was it two red glowing eyes? I don't think so, but that was obviously not what I was thinking. It was just a stationary red light that just appeared while we were standing at the back of the truck in the parking lot, and didn't move, no noise, no nothing, and it's like, okay, must be up there, right? Like, logical answer. And for a couple hours, just that red light just stayed right there. And so, not a big deal. In the morning, we scrambled up there from the backside and checked it all out, because it was significant enough where we're like, okay, in the morning we're going to go check this out. We just fell asleep. We just ended up going to sleep in the light. And anyway, so didn't see any sign of anything. We hiked around up on that bluff for all day, and we weren't doing any investigation. We were just going for a hike. But right. So fast forward a few weeks, and I'm out there camping and by myself, just kind of, I don't know, maybe it was school winter break or something for school. I was at a community college, and anyway, I'm by myself. I'm like a quarter mile from Coon Bluff, from the actual campground, and small campground. I'm upriver from the campground, a quarter mile maybe. There's a pack of wild horses that probably still to this day you could go see them. And I just remember seeing them that day or the day before, and had my dog with me, I guess. But so I'm in my tent one night, and I'm camped kind of off the river, like 100 yards, and I'm near a dry creek bed, and it's kind of a brushy area. It wasn't full of just cactuses. We're in the river bottom, so it was like, I don't know what kind of trees anymore, but if it was some kind of an oak brush, and some cottonwoods maybe. But anyway, I'm right up off this dry creek bed that when there was water in that creek, it just, of course, went right into the Salt River 100 yards away. And crawled in my tent, going to sleep, and I'm woken up out of a dead sleep from a growling that was louder than anything I was ever familiar with growing up in the Midwest. And I grew up hunting and fishing in the woods and deer hunting. Wasn't real familiar with bears at the time, I guess, but I knew there wasn't any bears there, and it's this really loud growling noise is, I don't know, we'll say 50 yards upstream, up that dry creek bed, away from the river, and I jumped out of my bed and started looking for, all I had was a knife, and I had as silly as it sounded, well, not silly, but I had my compound bow and I had a target, and that's why I had the bow. I was just practicing archery and while I was camping. So anyway, I start looking for a light and looking for my knife and my bow and anything. And I'm trying to process because I'm in a new state, new area, right. It's like, okay, well, what is this animal? And I'm like, okay, it's gotta be a wild hog. And, but it's a creepy, loud growl. And just as I'm processing this from closer to the river, I hear something responding with as frickin' crazy of a growl as I'm hearing on the other side of me. Wow. And I'm right in the middle of this, man. And I couldn't make this up, but this is all happening in a few seconds, and the next thing I know, these two animals are coming towards each other, and I'm painting this picture in my head that I'm right in the middle of this, and I'm thinking it's like two wild boars who are about ready to meet and just have a fight, whether it's mating season or what, I don't know. But so I have jumped out of my tent. I have my knife in my hand. My dog is not making a noise. She's right next to me, jumped out of the tent. And I had long johns on, or a full onesie, long john onesie. And standing there like a madman with a knife. And these two animals, they're not animals. I mean, I've researched, there's no hogs there. Maybe there is now. I don't know. There's not documented freaking hogs in the Phoenix Valley, right?
Yeah. And if it, really quick, if it was, like, some people may be like, oh, it was a coyote, but this was far deeper, way deeper.
I am hearing these two things at this point coming, running. It was like, I'm thinking I'm going to get ran over. It was like, I'm not saying the ground was shaking and everything, but I am hearing this extremely loud snarl, growl, like, dude, from a movie, and I am shaking, and it's pitch dark, and these two creatures, I felt them collide. I'm on top of like an 8-foot or 10-foot pretty steep bank, that creek bank. It's a dry creek bed now, and those two things met right at me in the bottom of the creek bed and just collided, and I sprinted. I couldn't find a light. All I had was a flashlight, I'm sure, at the time. It's not like we had a cell phone spotlight or anything. I didn't have anything. No headlamps, nothing. This was probably 2006, and I just we take off running through the woods in the direction of the campground where my truck's parked. And I never looked back. I left everything and I went back like 5 or 7 days later, maybe 2 weeks. I don't want to say for sure, but a week or two later. And all my tent was trampled down flat and, just not shredded, and maybe some people came by, some kids or whoever, and just I didn't have anything really there to steal, but nothing was stolen, and just flattened. So I grabbed my stuff and anyway, never went back, and so that was my first experience with, and I wasn't thinking, I was still thinking some kind of frickin' animal, right? I just had no idea. I didn't even, cryptids wasn't part of my thought process at the time. So did the light on top of the bluff, was that there's all sorts of UFO sightings in the Phoenix Valley, of course. Was this anything? I don't know. Don't care too much. Obviously, it's not affecting me. Was that involved with what happened with me with these creatures? Like, over the years, I've bounced back and forth, and as I've learned a lot more, and I've dove head deep into Sasquatch and now Dogman too these last few years. But so I've had a thought, with something, I don't know, right? I don't even want to speculate. It's like, was something protecting me, or did they not even know I was there? It's like, was something on the other side of my tent, and heard this thing coming and was like, nope, that's not happening, right? And met this animal or this creature or whatever, and just stopped anything from happening. And I was out of there. I was running through the dark, trees in my face, getting whacked by everything. And so anyway, that's when I'm 19 or so. And now we can.
No, that's if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Just by judging from where you're talking, Maricopa County.
Oh yeah.
Is that the Gila River or no?
I want to say it's the Salt River.
Okay. Oh, that's the name of it, the Salt River. Okay.
Salt River, yeah. Coons Bluff State Park.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not really familiar with the rivers in that area, but I knew Coons Bluff was like Maricopa
people
County.
People tube down that Salt River like crazy, and in the summer, and it's a big destination, and but you're out there, we're 25 minutes out of the city, and you're in the desert, and your listeners in in the area are gonna know what I'm talking about, but
most definitely.
Yeah. So fast forward. It's hard to. I'm just gonna jump right ahead to
whatever you're comfortable with, brother.
Yeah.
This is your show.
Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and so it's 2018 now, and at the time of this, and it's late August, and I'm a hunting guide in Idaho, and elk season's right around the corner, a week away, 1st of September for archery. I'm around the Frank Church. I'm kind of right near the border of the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness area. The closest township, we're the closest township is Edwardsburg, Idaho. And there's an airstrip there, and there's a forest ranger, park ranger cabin, and a lodge that I guess has reopened now, and they sell food. And this is, I ain't kidding you, 2.5 hours down a gravel road to anything. We would go 3 hours or 3.5 hours one way to a decent, good grocery store.
Right.
So
you're out in God's country.
Yeah. Yep. North central, kind of central Idaho. And we're there packing in our couple backcountry camps. We're packing in a bunch of hay. It's all horse and mule. It's a horse and mule operation. So it's a week before the hunters get there. There's me, another guide, and our wrangler cook are the three that are around and setting camps and stuff. And so one afternoon, I'm with our wrangler cook, Tess, and we were together. We went there together. We were dating. And so we have the horses staged up on the mountain. We're a half hour from Edwardsburg, the township. It's not a town, but there's a remote airstrip, a Forest Service airstrip there that it's open to public. There's like 28 remote Forest Service airstrips in Idaho, and they're all open to public pilots. And that's really it's one of the things that makes Idaho a special place. And it helps, people it makes some really deep wilderness areas accessible. So it's an afternoon, and we're up feeding these horses. We got them staged at a trailhead, and we had an hour to burn. We had probably around, at the time, like 22 horses and mules, and we were staying down at a cabin near Edwardsburg, and we had the horses staged, like I said, and we had a couple hours to burn in between the times that we were whatever we were doing with the horses. We wanted to wait a little bit till we threw them some hay and watered them, because we had some makeshift holding pens, but they were just tied to hitching rails that we would have to put up each year and then take down, and just leave them lay, and because it's Forest Service land. But so we're at the horses. We're gonna burn an hour or two, and so we walk up this. It's also an really old mining road where some old timers used to mine gold in the area, and still do, actually. You can get a free permit, and anybody and their brother can, as long as you don't use any big equipment, you can go and with a shovel and pan for gold. Yeah, in a lot of these creeks. But so we walked up this old mining road, and now we're at the end of the road, and we're at a boundary of the Frank Church Wilderness, and we sit down and to have some lunch, and we're like 10 feet apart, and I'm leaning against a rock, and we're surrounded by dark timber, but we're in a rock slide, an old rock slide that they put this road right through, and the rock slide's only like 75 yards wide and 100 yards long. Otherwise, it's dark timber. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So just a small rock slide in the middle of forest, and a lot of spruce, a lot of pine, a lot of fir. And this little break in this rock slide gives you a little bit of a view, because otherwise you can't see anything. You're in the woods and there's no views. And that was kind of why we walked up to this spot. And in the middle of that rock slide, there's like 5 mature fir trees, and they're tall. They're probably, I don't know, 50 or 60 feet tall. Rocks and grass all around this patch of trees. And like I said, it's not exactly in the middle of the rock slide, but it's in the rock slide. There's rocks behind this group of like 6 trees. So it's like an island. And you can see all the way around it. And the timber doesn't start, from that patch of trees. There's, like I said, it's kind of an island. And so this patch of trees is probably 25 yards in front of me. And then, and just rocks in between us. And behind that group of trees, there's rocks for another like 30 yards, and then the timber starts, and I can see, both of us, we can see around these trees, and that's where my gaze is at, right? Just randomly. And if any animal would have been there, or there's no way a big animal could have walked into that group of trees without without us seeing it within the last 10 or 20 minutes. Maybe it was there the whole time. Maybe this animal that I am going to talk about was there the whole time. Like if it was a bear or a moose or a wolf or an elk, it would have had to have been there the whole time, because we would have seen something walk up.
Right.
So anyway, we're sitting there for a good 10 or 20 minutes, and my gaze is right on this group of trees. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at the top, basically from the waist up, and I can't see one shoulder, but I can see from the waist up one shoulder, which was the right shoulder, and a head. And it's just a massive black blob, really. It's, it's in the shadow, and so my gaze catches this spot, and it's like it was just a black outline, so my brain starts eliminating or thinking, okay, what is this? Is it a moose? No. Is it an elk? No. Is it a bear? Okay, maybe. This bear, I must be looking at a bear climbing this tree, right? And the next thing I know, this obviously happens in just a few seconds. The next thing I know, this figure moves and hides from me behind the tree. And I'm not thinking Sasquatch. I'm not thinking Dogman. I'm not thinking anything like that. Now I'm standing up because this piqued my curiosity. And I'm expecting to see this bear. What I'm thinking has got to be a bear at this point.
Right.
I'm just expecting it to climb this tree, or climbing down from this tree, and moving on. And I picked up a rock. I threw two. It sounds. I don't like to make a lot of noise when I'm in the wilderness. Of course, it goes with hunting. We're always quiet, but I have a soft tone, and I don't like to make a lot of noise when I'm in the woods. It doesn't matter which woods I'm in, if I'm just hiking by myself with my dog in Iowa or guiding a hunt, whatever. I picked up 2 rocks and threw them down there, just not like tried to hit anything, but to flush this animal out of there, because it's not making sense.
Yeah, your curiosity.
These animals, these animals don't just hide from me like that. And nothing happened, and this is all just still, in seconds, and I never took my eye off this spot. And I said out loud to Tess, I said, I'm gonna walk down there. And at this point, and she's been looking down there too, in the same spot. And I'm a hunting guy. I'm a curious person. When there's something that I'm not something that's not registering in the wilderness, I'm really comfortable. I'd taught wilderness survival school in Maine prior to all this, and I'm a woodsman. And so I said, I'm going to walk down there. And before I could even take a step, maybe I took a step, but before I could, was just in the middle of taking a step, and I was going to V-line it down that way, and not, still just not really knowing what I'm thinking or what it is. And from behind us, they plowed this road out through this rock slide, and so there's a steep embankment behind us. It's a real narrow road. I mean, it was like, at this time, it's wide enough to ride a horse through real easy, but even a four-wheeler. Had taken a four-wheeler up there, but that's about as wide as it is, and so it's a real steep embankment, real narrow trail, and up like a 10 or 12 foot embankment with rocks and maybe some dirt. Some younger growth. I suppose it was younger growth, yeah, because they had 40 or 50 years prior plowed this road out. So yeah, some younger pine trees were growing, and they're probably 10 to 15 feet tall, new growth. And those trees started and didn't stop for 100 miles. It's like we're in the middle of the wilderness, and so I'm just to try to paint the picture a little bit. These trees they're right on top of us, right? I mean, it's a steep embankment, narrow like four-wheeler trail, and I'm standing up now, and I'm ready to head down this rock slide and see what the heck is going on. I mean, it wasn't the form of a bear, it was a shoulder and a head, right? Staring at me, and I couldn't see its eyes. I'm not going to say I could, I wasn't looking into its eyes, even though I could tell, thinking about it right now, that thing was just locked on me, like, gosh. And then it slowly moves behind this tree. Like oh man, I don't know if I'm painting the picture great, but when you're out in the woods of Idaho, man, you hear stories of, and I'm not talking Sasquatch stories. There's, whether it's crazy people in the woods and you just, and we're half-hour four-wheeler ride from that Edwardsburg spot where there's a park ranger station, and then 3 hours to a frickin' highway.
Right.
We are remote.
Are you armed at the time?
I didn't have a gun on me.
Oh man!
No.
Wow.
No. Yep. And there's not a lot of the grizzly bears don't live in the Frank Church. There's grizzlies to the north, south, east, and west of us in the Frank Church wilderness area, but they need more of a protein source, and they get it from grubs, and believe it or not. But if there ain't certain kind of grubs in an area, there's no grizzlies there.
Okay.
And they might not like the terrain. But anyway, so the only reason I'd carry a steel on my hip is if a horse goes down in the back country, you got to shoot it and put it out of its misery, because there's no getting it out of there. But so not armed, but I'm not scared for my life at the time. I'm just like, this is happening quick. And before I could take a step towards that patch of trees where this thing just kind of hid from me, we get this noise from behind us. It couldn't have been, it was, I'm not going to explain this worth of crap either, because it was so strange and out of the ordinary of a noise, and how loud it was, Jeff. I cannot explain it.
Right.
But this ongoing, like, it's not even a chatter, but I'll say this extremely loud chattering.
Was it like a clicking or?
More of a. So later, talking with Tess, she explained it as a xylophone.
Okay.
And click mixed with clicking. If you hold 2 quarters in your hand and hit them together as fast as you can. I used to do it when I was a kid, squirrel hunting, and use 2 quarters as a squirrel call to bring squirrels closer to me and get them worked up. So it was like a squirrel chatter when you clank 2 quarters real quick in your hands, just rapidly. And a xylophone, if you guys remember, or if you guys know what I'm talking about with that instrument, where it's you hit it on them, and it's just like ding 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 ding, and all pitches, and it goes real low in pitch and real high in pitch. So you add, as dumb as it sounds, you add a xylophone, you add these quarters clicking together, and then you add like and it's, I can see when I hear people explain that they heard what they can only explain to a samurai chatter. See, so if you can picture that, in your ear, extremely loud, coming from right behind us, right above us, right behind us, and it was like a cadence, it was like a communication thing, but it was the most abnormal instrumental. I can barely remember that noise. and I wasn't myself when that noise happened. All of a sudden, my curiosity, my comfort level, just was gone. And I looked at Tess, she looked at me. We were just, I don't remember. I can't, I'm not just going to make this, I'm not just going to, I know we looked at each other, and I can't tell you how usually if something around me piques my interest, I'm a curious guy, I don't get scared easy. I check things out when I'm out for a walk in the woods, or if I'm, hunting or guiding a fishing trip or whatever, pack trips. I mean, I've trained Green Berets in the mountain for a week at a time to prepare them for a upcoming deployment. So they, know horsemanship skills and that kind of stuff for these special forces guys. Like, I've been in a lot of different situations, and with bears and grizzlies and bad horse wrecks and the whole 9 yards. So I don't run from fear. Things slow down for me. I'm a veteran, actually, and got some real cool training, and spent a short time being trained by actually some instructors who were, Navy SEALs, and I wasn't in that community or anything, but I've been through some cool training, and I was good at what I was doing while in that kind of high stress training environment. And things slow down for me. I think clear in a stressful situation, and that was, I think I got that slogan from the military. But when this noise, when you're in the middle of nowhere and something like that happens, I don't know that you hear the term in the Bigfoot community, you hear the term where you're zapped. And not saying that I was zapped. I turned and walked away, walked back down to the horses. Tess came with me. I wasn't terrified. It was just like I was something, I wasn't like being controlled to just turn and walk away and not investigate, or, I didn't even take time to do anything, right? Just turn and walk back down to the horses. And as we're walking, now this part I can remember more clearly, as we're not, we were just 5 minutes up this 4-wheel road, but probably halfway back to the horses. Now I'm like, I never was zapped. I was always fully there. I think I don't know what was going on. And so now we're walking back, and this part I can clearly remember. And I'm hearing we're being paced on our right, which was uphill where that noise had come from. And something's pacing us to our right. And then below us, I don't have any other way to describe it other than we're being paced to our left. And it wasn't the thing that I saw. I know what it was now. I mean, it was I don't know exactly what it was, but I can't say it didn't have a snout or anything, but I just, it was a Sasquatch. And that thing wouldn't have had the chance to leave that group of trees. So there's obviously another one that was to our right the whole time, downhill and to our right. So as we turn and walk back down the hill a little bit towards the horses where they're staged.
Were the horses behaving oddly?
No.
Okay.
So we got this thing pacing on each side of us, and we got all the way back to the horses. And now I'm starting to put two and two together, and it's like, whoa, okay. I didn't say, years before this, I was in the Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota, and we were hooting and hollering, or whooping and hooting, and like the Animal Planet Bigfooters did, right?
Yeah. Hitting
trees every once in a while and just being silly, and I'm flashing back to this trip in Boundary Waters quick, but that night when we were in the Boundary Waters, my buddy, we had beer hidden back into the woods a little ways where there was a spring with cold water, and it was summer, so that was our cooler. And he was back. Me and Joel were by the fire, and our buddy was back 180 to 100 yards into the woods getting a beer. And we had music and a bonfire going, Joel and I did, and we heard a tree knock, just like they always say, right? Clear as day, back towards where my buddy was having this beer. And the next thing you know, he's sprinting up to us, scared as can be, and that, whatever, did a huge tree knock. I mean, a Sasquatch had to have been freaking a huge tree knock right next to him. So that was I didn't mention that earlier, whatever, but that was an experience that I was like, whoa, maybe Bigfoot is real. I mean, that was just a tree knock. I mean, it could have been anything, right? I didn't see a Sasquatch knock a tree, right? So who knows? I go by logic, and I'm a lot more open to things, of course.
Right. So you jumped on that. You jumped over to that story that you were with. What happened back with that one? So people aren't confused. I don't want to confuse anybody.
Yeah. What happened with which one?
When you were with Tess and...
Yep. I'm going to go back to that.
Okay.
So we're walking back, and I was explaining that Boundary Waters story because now we're back at the horses, and I'm starting to put two and two together. Like, I just saw the upper quarter. I can't say I saw both shoulders, just the upper quarter, like from the waist and the whole right shoulder and a huge head. The outline of this.
Okay.
And it's like, holy cow, we're back at the horses. I'm starting to put these two and two together as I'm being surrounded by whatever's walking just out of view in these trees around me and the horses and Tess.
Wow.
And the horses aren't going crazy. I mean, there's deer around, there's elk around. The elk and deer would come eat that hay that we have right next to the horses. And so now nobody's freaked out. I'm acknowledging that I'm surrounded by possibly Bigfoot, and we just we untied each horse and walked them to the creek that was right there, and we had to kind of manually give them a drink, and before we rode them all into our backcountry camp, probably within a day or two. But anyway, it was just, and that's, I mean, there's no big, huge kaboom ending where, the next thing I know, a Sasquatch walks out in front of us and all the horses. I mean, it wasn't anything like that. It was just that.
Just eerie,
that was,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
How many do you think, like, I know that you had clearly at least seen two that you saw, but did you feel like
clearly saw one?
One? Okay.
Yep.
But you pretty sure that there was another one because that one couldn't have moved like that one. Yeah.
No.
So you think there was about 2 more out there?
Yep. And that just started walking with us back to the horses like they do it all the time. And so I started thinking back, like, gosh, this past couple of weeks that we've been coming up here every day, I'm constantly hearing footsteps, and I'm just playing it off because there's deer crap and deer tracks next to this hay,
right?
And we'd see deer, and so. And
it's fall, right? Around fall.
Oh yeah.
So I mean,
the
woods make a lot of noise, just settling down as seasons change.
Yep. And so I'm now it's like, wow, I know what I just saw, and what we just heard, that was unnatural. There wasn't a man behind us. We didn't even have to look. It wasn't even a possibility that there was a person behind us that made this noise, right? And if I wouldn't have seen that figure in front of me, I mean, we're 25 yards. That is right in front of me. If it wasn't in a shadow, it was a clear, broad daylight, sun was shining, and the next thing I know, this black thing is locked on me. And that tree. And so this happens that day, and now I'm thinking back to the previous, like the year before, 2017, and I'm in the middle of the Frank Church, and me and another guide, we were the youngest, and we would switch each morning, and of getting up at 3 a.m. and the horses were free grazing all night. We'd put bells on the mares, and because the mules will stay with the horses, and the geldings, the boys, will stay with the female horses. And so we'd had bells on probably 7 mares and 28 stock total, and they were out in the free grazing they'd go anywhere at night, right? This is for 3.5 months in the fall while we were guiding hunters, and the hunters would fly in to an airstrip in the Frank Church, actually the Cabin Creek airstrip, so anyway, I'm waking up every other morning at 3 o'clock. If it wasn't, otherwise it was like 3:30, 3:45 when I was getting up, so it's not like it was a big deal. It was kind of cool. Waking up at 3, and you'd go out with your headlight and go walk a half mile or so and stop and listen, try to hear a bell. And, I'm hearing wolves howling, elk bugling, and it sometimes gave us, me and that other guide, this was no secret, but it'd give you an advantage to where which way I would want to ride out of camp that morning, right? If I'm hearing an elk bugle from a mile or so away in a certain direction, boom.
You know where you're going.
Yeah. And elk hunters do that nowadays. They'll get up in the middle of the night and go bugle, or they'll go drive up a road, leave their base camp and say go drive down a gravel road and listen for a bugle in the middle of the night, because elk have maybe they haven't learned, but they bugle in the night a little more, and because there's not a bunch of boneheads like us out bugling and spooking them away and stuff. So anyway, I'm out. A lot of times the moon is so bright, and if you're professional stargazers, they go to places in Idaho to stargaze, and so you don't even need a headlamp a lot of times. And so, gosh, I would be walking along, and for some reason, this was always I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I started seeing, it would be, we're in the middle of the Frank Church. It's open grassland. It's like no other place on earth. We're high elevation, but it's not all just timber. It's rolling hills. The Shoshone natives were, they lived there, especially in the summer. But they lived along Big Creek, and gosh, a lot of their remnants are there right now, still to this day. And so it's open areas. There's meadow. It's just like rolling meadows, just endless. And then there's patches of big timber. And so talk about elk paradise, man. And it's an $8,000 hunt for 1 week for these guys and gals. Yeah. And this is public land, and that's rare. So it's the hunt of a lifetime. We would ride 42 miles on horseback, me and a few other guides, to get to our camp, and one way. And so from that was from one direction. From the other direction, it'd be like 29 miles. So we're about 30 miles into the wilderness, legit. And just to paint the picture a little bit. And on the edge of one of these, so I'm up in the mornings looking for these horses, and it's not always easy. And I'm as I'm walking along, and we got 3 blizzards in September in 2017 that year. And so we had a lot of snow. And so I'm walking along one morning, and I see this out in the middle of the open, this pile of spruce boughs that are broken off a spruce tree, green, and in a pile, not around any other tree. And I live to track. I'm always tracking, whether it's just, you get addicted to it. Any hunter a lot of hunters know, and trackers and trappers know, you get addicted to looking at tracks. And so you try not to look down the whole time, so you might miss animals, but I'm do a lot of tracking, and still to this day, and I've taught it, whatever. But so I see this pile of spruce boughs. It's like a circle, the size of, oh boy, the first thing I'm looking at right now, like the front hood of a truck is about the size of the circle. And I know a hood of a truck isn't exactly a circle, but you get the idea. And it's like a 1.5 foot tall.
Okay.
Of bouncy, right? A spruce bough.
Yeah.
And something had broken each green spruce bough, but there wasn't a track. There wasn't a track to it. And this didn't just happen once, and it didn't just happen in one spot. And it was happening after fresh snowfalls, where it is impossible.
Right.
And so I walk up to this, and the first time, and I'm just dumbfounded, but I don't have much time. Like I gotta find these horses, and once you find them, they're stinkers. They will, once they see your headlamp, if you're using one or whatever, if they hear me hollering, because I'm hollering, and sometimes a mile away, and there's like 5 different spots that they'll like to be. And so you get to a high spot and you listen, and then you walk and get to a high spot and you listen. And frickin' wolves are out howling and just wild. And the stars are like no other. And so, yeah, those horses and mules, the mares would, once they hear you hollering, a lot of times they'll stop and they'll freeze, and so their bells don't jingle, so you don't know where they are. And so it's like I'm moving because I gotta get these horses, and once you get to them, they'll start running back to our camp, and it kind of wakes the hunters up. It's kind of a cool thing for the hunters that there's all of a sudden there's 28 horses running through camp into the pen where another guide that spreads out, grain.
Yeah.
And that's what gets these horses running back every morning, because they're like, okay, yep, we're going back for grain. And then we got to saddle them, eat breakfast, and we're out riding still an hour before daylight, right? And so the first time I seen this pile of spruce boughs, I don't have much time to like investigate, It's dark out, and gave me the chills, and there's these so I'm thinking, okay, the hunter, another guide and a hunter must have sat here yesterday or whatever, and just blew it off. And then I don't know how long later, whether it was 2 days or a week, but probably 3 more times that fall, I would find that exact same thing. And it was a lot of times it was set up like it was over, like it was watching the horses, which is strange too. Yeah. Not really, but I would go back, so I'd find these piles of spruce boughs, and I'd see them during the day when I was riding with a client or two. And I would ride, I at least once, maybe twice during the day, I walked or rode our horse over to this pile of spruce boughs and just got off my horse and really kind of investigated it. I mean, there's no trees around.
Right.
There's, let alone a spruce tree. Spruce trees, 100, 200, 300 yards away.
Something had to carry it.
There's a forest. Yeah. It's been brought in there.
I just wanted to bring this up. We got about 20 minutes left of record time. But I wanted to ask, so what do you think these things, because you had said that they usually occurred after a snowfall. What do you think, they were sitting on them, and was there any scent around there?
No, never scent, never tracks. I'm not saying that it was always after a snowfall. I just know for a fact that at least once, if not twice, it was after a fresh snowfall. Mm-hmm. I mean, there wasn't tracks around it even, period.
Which is weird.
Yeah. Green.
Because something like that just doesn't, you've got a clearing.
Unless something just can appear and disappear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's like the only other way of explaining it is that it just magically dropped out of the sky and landed there.
Mm-hmm. And I have the chills from head to toe right now, and it takes
chilling just to even imagine, because just so if you don't mind, I want to ask just so my understanding of it, and maybe other people will help understand them understand. Mm-hmm. So pretty much you're 200-300 miles away, or whatever hours, you're 3 hours away from any civilization, in the middle of God's country, some fresh snows down on the ground, clearing. There is no spruce anywhere within the vicinity of it just to fall. And
they are stacked perfectly.
Yeah. This beautiful kind of, the only other way of explaining it is it's got to be beautiful to see upon Erie as well.
Oh, I cannot explain, man.
Wow, that's
I got
amazing.
The chills right now, and and where that was, it was. This was the year before that first encounter that I just talked about. So yeah, where this was more than 3 hours. This was an airplane ride.
Wow.
I mean, it's the Frank Church is. It's the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness Area, and it's kind of well known as being the most remote spot in the lower 48. And the way they judge that is how long does it take in help to get to you, even via aircraft, right?
Right.
It's kind of how they judge that.
Just to give everyone a size of Frank Church, River of No Return Wilderness, the size of this area is 2,366,000 acres of just wilderness. And I'm looking at a picture of it, and it is absolutely God's country. It is beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's surrounded by other national forests. And so it's like, that's what makes it the most remote, because it's surrounded by like the Bitterroot, I think, to the north or whatever, and this Elway or up there. And so does that make sense? It's this huge wilderness area, but it's surrounded by other wilderness areas and national forest lands, right? So it's talk about wild.
That is truly amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, just hearing that, I mean, that right there is something that, it's not, it's definitely an encounter of some sort, but it's like, you lived it. I'm just imagining coming out of my tent, looking around. Oh, it's a great morning.
Yeah, and then canvas tents with wood stoves. There's a guide tent, a client tent, and a cook tent. Yeah. Three canvas tents, big ones. Yeah.
And then kind of looking, and then you see this pile of spruce just placed in a circle.
Yeah, near where the horses hang out all during the night.
It's almost like the whatever made them was sitting, and I'm not going to say Bigfoot, I'm not going to say Dogman, because we don't know, but whatever made it just sat there and watched, so it didn't get wet or cold or whatever.
Oh, yeah, it kept itself off the frozen ground.
Which shows intelligence.
And it, oh my goodness. Yeah.
That is amazing. Huh.
This is one of the few times I've haven't relayed that to, I don't know if ever, to be honest. And to talk about it just chills me to the bone. Because how exposed I was at the time. I mean, you're with hunters, but what if, you're with hunters, there's obviously firearms, but what if there's what if there's just say 10, 15 of these creatures, whatever kind of creature made these things lurking around? You guys don't stand a chance. We don't stand a chance.
That's terrifying. I know you've got some other experiences. Like I said, we're coming up on time now. I don't want to run into it. So, after we end the interview, me and you can set a time up where we could do a part 2 of this, because I'm really interested in more of the interesting stuff you've got to share. Yeah. Right there, you shared 3 experiences that, in my eyes, even though there was visual, but not 100, you know what I mean? Not like 100% visual, but you're so far out that what you saw is not a person, like what else can it be? And like you said, it's not a bear,
It's not, no.
Damn.
No, there wasn't like that visual I had of that one, there wasn't a spot for a bear to be. Once it hid behind that tree, there wasn't anywhere. So anyway,
the spruce circle once really messed me up, man. Just putting that into perspective in your mind, is just like, what the, and you're by yourself, it's dark, you're looking for the horses, and then you see this, and you're like, what the hell is this?
I got lost the first week. Wow,
that is really, I mean, that gives you a whole different kind of creep factor.
Thank you.
I mean, there's seeing one of these things face to face is scary, but then when you see something like this, and you're just like, how the hell, what the hell, you've got, how did it make it, why did it make it, what made it?
I got a story. I won't tell it right now, but
damn,
a good friend of mine and a fellow guide that I work with. He told me he had a story.
I don't know if you're, like I said, I'm going to be going. We can just talk about it really quick here. I don't know if you're going to be free tomorrow night.
I should be. Well, I work a little later.
I'm up all night. I don't sleep.
Yeah.
So, I'll work your schedule.
9:30, 10
that
o'clock
way,
your time. But
people get this Thursday morning, and then with Friday morning, they can hear the rest of your. Because like I said, when I saw, you said, I'm a guide out here, and I was like, this guy's got some stuff. And that one, I've never heard anything like the spruce.
I've never have either, man.
That's just freaky as all get out. I mean, there's no explanation to it.
I've held that in for 6 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And goodness. And I tried to explain to people that I'm not just another weekend warrior. I'm in the backcountry 7 months of the year, and I train I teach. I teach the stuff, and I'm very, very aware. I'm very in tune. I don't miss much in the woods,
right?
And I have a knack. I go straight to. I don't know. I don't need to get into all of it, but
that's just awesome.
I'm a professional, and that's my story.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna end the interview right here.
Yep.
That way we don't go any further. I want to thank you for sharing what you've shared with us so far, because I know that I'm blown away by just the way you explained the first two, but then the last one just kind of that one really messed me up, and I can only imagine what it did to you to hold that in for that long.
Seriously, man.
I mean, that's just like seeing, that's like the people that hunt UFOs, that sees a circle in, a burnt circle in the sand in the desert. You know what I mean? That's like something like that. It's unexplainable. Where the hell did that thing come from? How did it happen? Where are the tracks?
And where the hell did it go?
Yeah.
I mean,
So do me a favor, don't hang up. I want to talk to you for a couple minutes before, and thank you for coming on and sharing today. I really appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I will talk to you in a few minutes, but once again, thank you. Is there anything that you'd like to end this with?
No. I go with my gut, and my gut was to share it with you and your subscribers, and I'm diving into you and your content these last few weeks, and since I'm on, this is my one chance. I wanted to give a shout out to Victor, but anyway, I appreciate your time, and I'll hang out on the phone here for you.
Awesome. I'll talk to you in a second. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, folks, a lot of information shared right there. Let's jump into part 2 of this very informative and very vivid interview. I literally felt like I was there when he was telling me some of these experiences. Let's get into it. All right, everyone. Last night I had a subscriber on, and wow, what an amazing story that he had to share with us. And that word story, I'm not using that as like a fictional thing. He painted the picture. That's what I mean. He really, everything about the way he shared his experiences really painted the picture for us to put ourselves in his shoes. You know, how he described the wilderness, how he described the kind of spruce beds and stuff like that. And a lot of you guys seem to really enjoy Phil and him sharing his experiences. So like we said last night, we got him back. Phil, how are you?
I'm great.
Awesome. You know, and it was truly, and I talked to you for a couple minutes before, you know, I was blown away. Just, you know, the way you were able to share your experiences and really paint the picture for us. And I really liked the fact that they weren't like right in your face. Like the Dogman was, or Bigfoot was 30 feet away, and they were there, and I knew they were there, and they were leaving these signs, like the spruce beds. There's no way of them happening in nature or natural, and there they are. No tracks around, no nothing, but there they are. So, I mean, great storytelling, and I appreciate that. And from the comments, everyone else did too. So, I know that you had kind of left something off about the spruce beds and stuff like that, and you wanted to get into that quick and then jump into some experiences. So I'll kick the mic over to you, and you can share away.
Okay. Yeah, I sure appreciate that, and your subscribers, just going through the comments today, and I was able to respond to some, and then maybe I'll go through again tonight. But to me, I left out what maybe you could call it a significant fact from that pile of spruce boughs, and I hope the listeners watch our first interview from the night before, last night, and not this one first, because they're going to wonder what the heck we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm going to put part 2 on this.
Oh, there you go.
People...
Yeah. So I'm just going to that pile of spruce boughs, and when I was taking a close look at them in the daylight, there was a slight depression in that pile. I know I said it was 1.5 foot or 18 inches thick of spruce boughs, and there was a slight depression on the, I guess, kind of the top layer, and you can tell if part of, as a tracker, one thing they look for is just a leaf that is turned over when the other leaves maybe aren't. and that can paint a huge picture, or it can put a huge puzzle piece to your puzzle if you're tracking a certain animal.
Right. And the smallest thing out of place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. and that top layer of them spruce boughs was underneath a spruce bough. It's green, bright green on top, and then underneath is a little lighter of a color. And they were laid down really nice. However, that top layer, it was like something, was standing there, sitting there. Just some of those individual needles were out of place, and they weren't perfect. They weren't symmetrical, and that was quite significant for me when I was standing there looking at them in the daylight, and I had no, we don't need to get into that whole story, but I had no answers, and that was a whole nother thing, and I left it out last night on accident. So
I shared that with my dad, that experience, and what how you had talked about that, and my dad literally keyed on it, just like what you had. He was like, maybe they were sitting on them watching the horses, or watching you guys, just sitting, observing, keeping their feet or their bottoms warm, and
or keeping their tracks
cleaned up.
Yeah. And they, if they're sitting there, they're gonna melt that snow down to the ground.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't care. Maybe who knows, right?
Yeah.
But
definitely an interesting, something that just that really, it stuck in my head all night, after I heard it. So it was definitely a very significant piece of proof to me. It doesn't get any more solid than that. So
I don't lose sleep. I'm a good sleeper, and last night I don't recall a couple of those stories I'd never really told anybody, and then the longer one with that possible Sasquatch being, I've just told that a few times over these 5 years, and so I had a real hard time settling down last night, because I was amped up and reliving it.
Yeah.
And it's all good, but I just tossed and turned.
From there, where do we go with your experiences from the very dense park in Idaho?
Well, there's Tess and I. We're no longer together. We're great friends, actually, still. And she's in Southern Oregon, and maybe she could get on an interview if you ever would want to, because for whatever reason she could relay that original story her and I had, and she's had a few other things.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Nothing too crazy, but she's a Wrangler packer. I mean, she's her and her sister started a horse riding business in Southern Oregon, and so I'm gonna go to, when I was out there for a winter, I'm kind of a snowbird. Spring, summer, fall, I'm in the mountains and just guiding, and full time every day, not a day off one. I mean, 15 to 17 hour days. Just, it's a lifestyle. It's not a career. But so it was the winter of, oh boy. we now? 22. Not last year, but the winter of 2020. So I that fall of 2020, the pandemic year, I took that summer off just because all the question marks, and drove back home to northeast Iowa, and then July rolled around and the money's rolling short, and so I was looking for something a little different, and I ended up for an outfit on the kind of the Colorado New Mexico border, and hunt elk and deer and bear.
Yeah.
And then after that, and she came out actually for the last few weeks of that season and helped, even guided with a little bit, and then we headed to the coast of Southwest Oregon, that's kind of where she moved 10 years ago from her original birthplace in Michigan, but so kind of her stomping grounds in Southwest Oregon, and so we headed out there and pulled my camper out there, and just drove up a Forest Service road and found a cool spot and parked my camper. And so we're outside of Williams, Oregon. That's a real small town. Anybody that's interested, you're going to know right where we were, and that's great. And just 6 miles outside of Williams, up a Forest Service road, and we did a lot of hunting, and turkey hunting and deer hunting. The seasons run a little later in Oregon, and so we were able to catch that in December and in January too, because the elk season in Colorado ended in November. But so we're out doing a lot of hiking and hunting, and she was helping at a horse boarding place just down the road, and I wasn't working, so you get bored, right? And you got to do something.
Yeah.
So a lot of hiking and exploring, and anyway, we have a mule, her and I together. We have a mule together. That's funny, but and so I was training this mule. Actually, we bought it that winter, and that was my project in January, kind of all late winter and into spring. And now that mule that we bought for $100, I'm not exaggerating. She's a $15,000 animal right now.
Wow.
If we'd never sell her, but because she's been a guiding. She'll lead a string of 18 horses and she's done it plenty of times. But so anyway, I'm kind of training that mule. She thinks she's a horse, but so one day we go out on a regular. They're old mine. They've mined on these Forest Service roads too, but definitely the lumber company made these roads, or some miners as well. There's gold in that part of the country too. But we're walking up one of our regular ones, and I don't know how we would have ever started talking about this particular subject. It's not strange that we were talking about Sasquatch and that scene, but we were thinking what is something that we knew about the structures and just that's cool and that's its own thing.
Right.
And that can be that's obviously proof right there that something's out there. But so we're thinking, we got to laughing because I don't know if it was her or me, but we started talking about, well, the best proof or the best sign that we could get right now would be a fresh pile of scat.
Yeah.
I don't want to swear, because unless, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
just and it would have to be there's some bears around, and I know bear scat, I know lion scat, I know it all very well, but just a heaping pile,
Big old pile of
fresh,
Sasquatch crap,
fresh scat, because we'd heard about telepathy and kind of the mind speak and that whole thing, and so we talked about it and joked about it a little bit, and I am not making this up. That day we came across and we were talking about it out loud, and maybe this creature could have heard us. I'm not saying this part of the story is telepathy, but we walked right up to a huge, abnormally, you can tell the difference of human type bowel movement than an animal. It's just
right.
Everything about it's different than from a bear. Well, not everything, but it's so we walk up to this fresh, I frickin', like I often do, I'll put the back of my finger close to scat, whether it's elk or deer if we're hunting or something, and just to try to feel some warmth, and most of the time I end up kind of with the back of one of my fingers touching it, just to see if there's any warmth still there.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, and it was warm. Wow. And
now, not being gross, not being but there's a distinct, warm, or was it, had it been sitting for, because obviously it's coming out of a living creature, so it's going to be from 98 or whatever degrees. Was it winter? Was it fresh warm, or how fresh warmth would you say?
Well, it's winter in southern Oregon, and we're in the mountains, not real high elevation, but it was 30s in the 30s.
Wow. Maybe
40s. It was cold. And I know that I went over that maybe we talked about it, or it went over my head. But I had thought, how long would it take for this to cool down? And I don't know, but it was just slightly warm to the touch, and that's all I know about the temperature. Right. just it was, and it wasn't anything but an absolute. It just looked like an absolute huge human type, with texture in the form. Human type. Wow. Human like, and
yeah, because there's a difference between.
We had just talked about it, and
was there any kind of not and that's I enjoyed your experience last night, because you painted the picture. You didn't
You painted what was there. You didn't paint what you thought was there, you know?
Yeah.
Was there, other than the scat, I mean, did you kind of hear anything? Nothing. No tracks? Just this pile of scat and no tracks? Because you said there was snow.
No.
So there's...
No snow.
What? Wow.
No snow.
No
Yeah,
snow?
No snow. It maybe flurried twice and would be gone within a day that year, and most often in that Southwest Oregon area. But no snow, no tracks. It was all leaf covered in the forest. The ground was just leaf covered and hard. Just not a noise that whole winter. I mean, never heard a whoop, never heard anything, never, just nothing. And so we can go back if more questions come up, but that story doesn't stop. But it was another day. It's her and I again. We're a little on the same side of that mountain, and not a huge mountain or anything, just we're a little higher up on another branch of an old Forest Service road and they make the lumber company a lot of times keep those roads open because they made them, and now they have to cut trees.
They're responsible for the maintenance.
Yeah, they don't plow them or anything,
right.
But here, yeah, they'll clear the trees in a lot of areas. They have to, but so we're just a little higher up on another little offshoot of that road, and this time I didn't say anything to Tess. I didn't say anything out loud. And as we're walking up this mountain, and we're gonna sit. It's an afternoon kinda, and we're just going to sit till close to dark, then walk back down to the camper, and 30-minute walk or something. But we get to, okay, so I'll just back up. While we're on this hike up this mountain, in my head, I said, okay, leave us another pile of scat. And I'm testing out kind of the telepathy thing, and which I never had before really, and never received telepathy from anything or anybody. And so in my head I said, leave me another obvious sign of scat. And I wasn't using the word scat, I'm sure, but anyway, so we get walking along the side of this mountain, and the road ends, and it turns into it was a north facing side now, and so it was a lot of vegetation because that's more shaded, and that southern Oregon gets hammered by heat and sun in the summertime and drought, and so that north facing slope was a lot more vegetation. I remember clearly, and so the trail ended, and I have a very clear memory of the last of this whole. I'd been up there a bunch. So, not to this particular spot, but, anyway, the trail ends, and we step into we keep walking and bushwhacking just for 40 yards, and we sat Tess down, and then she was going to watch the little lower area for deer, and then I climbed up the hill, probably 100 yards, and to where there was, couldn't see each other, so there was no way we were gonna shoot towards each other. I knew right where she was, and she knew really we had a great idea where I was going to be, and we sat for 2 or 3 hours, and then we meet up. Didn't see anything. Meet up, bushwhack through a real thick spot to that road, and it's like wide enough for a 4-wheeler. You know, you on that stretch you wouldn't get a pickup up that far, and we start walking back, and we didn't go 100 or 150 yards. Were you gonna say something?
No.
Oh, okay. And we got to this. We were approaching this stretch of the trail that on the walk in, I'm gonna just say this part because I hope you guys believe me, and it's because it's the truth. But on the way in, I had a slight off feeling about that particular stretch of the trail, and I just had a slight feeling, and right in this particular area, and it was getting close to obviously where that road ended and where we hunted for a couple hours. And then so we're walking back. We just started walking and made it 100 or 200 yards, and we start getting to that spot, and I don't think I was feeling freaked out or anything. And we get to this stretch of this road, and trail road, whatever, and right in the middle of that, and it's just wide enough for a 4-wheeler, and right in the middle, we could not have missed it on the way in. A huge pile of scat, of just maybe the same, but maybe bigger than the week or 2 or 3 prior than that last instance. And she looked at, what, I don't know, but she's just like, we just both stopped and just stared at it. We could not have missed it on the way in.
Right.
And not that really matters anyway, because it was what I had asked for. And through my mind. And there it is. What do you say to that?
Yeah.
What do you do? And what do you do?
Now, the crazy thing about this is, you've been out in the deep, deep woods. There's no other way of saying it. You got to put 2 deeps to that, because, 3 hours away from, the nearest small town.
Yeah.
That's something that, you seldom come across. And then just on the spur, you think about it and you ask for it mentally, and you're like, bam. And a lot of people, a lot of researchers, a lot of theorists and stuff like that. And I only say theory because it's all it is right now, because we don't really know for 100%. But believe that Sasquatch has some type of telepathy and able to communicate or understand. Maybe not communicate with us because maybe we don't have the receptor, but maybe get what we're thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's an interesting case, and it's a Sasquatch case. And ironically enough, this weekend I'm going to Ed and Lorraine Warren's daughter's Paracon, and Lorraine Warren, who those of you who don't know, she is a medium, and Ed was a demonologist. He was like the only civilian that could do exorcisms per the Catholic Church. she had a experience where she had communicated with a hurt Sasquatch. It's a story that's I've only heard like bits and pieces of it, but that's probably one of my biggest questions if I get a chance to talk to their daughter is ask about that, because I want to know the whole story. You know what I mean? Like, how did it go down? What was your mom feeling like? Was she drained afterward? Because these things really have some, maybe like, I don't want to say magic, but maybe it's something that they're using in their brain that we lost through time,
That could be it. But,
we gained technology and we lost this little 2% or 1% of our ability in our brain that housed the telepathy part, so... But yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah. It's crazy, just you're thinking about it, and there's this big pile of crap, and you've been out there, the difference between elk, the difference between bear crap. I mean,
that couldn't even have been a grizzly pile. Grizzly was half that size of that pile, and so yeah. Not that it matters. I've maybe told one person that whole story,
right?
Too, because it's just. But with the mind speak thing, was there something to that, or was it just totally random? Could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been.
I think it's how you feel at that point. It's. It's what the person that experienced it feels. Were they understanding me, or was it random? However you, and talking to you and, hearing this now, but talking to you for a couple hours last night and a little bit today, I kind of feel like you feel like it was definitely a telepathy meant to be thing.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely that's so cool, man. It really is.
Yeah. Wow. I read a comment just before we got on tonight from our video from last night, and a gentleman just tonight wrote a comment, and he'll probably hear this, I hope, but he just said, "I appreciate you, Phil, for," I don't remember exactly what he said, but to sticking with the facts and not, what was the word, but not jumping to a conclusion or whatever he said, but
yeah,
and that's the best compliment, and that's, nothing more to say on that, but
right. Absolutely. And I said it too, I said it to you.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you really painted a picture that was there. It wasn't one that you wanted to be there. It was there. It wasn't, it wasn't bright colors. It was the colors that it was, and I appreciate it too. So
yeah.
Definitely some very interesting experiences. And when I read that comment of yours, and you said, the comment that connected us, I knew, for some reason, I was like, this person really has seen some very interesting stuff in the woods of America. You're going places that there probably no man has touched, for a long time.
I guarantee you, I've put some footsteps in literally areas that haven't been touched.
Right.
But definitely in some areas where only natives have stepped foot in, and anyway, yeah, you're right on. And I got to thinking today also, if somebody was wanting to, because if you take an average Joe or an average Jane and have them listen to my story, and if they don't even know that Sasquatch or Dogman or any of that's up for debate, they're gonna think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But well, shoot, I lost track of.
That's all right. You're good.
Where I was going there.
I got you. I know that you wanted to talk about the telepathy kind of experience, and then I guess we could move up to the state above Oregon, Washington.
Yep. I spent let's see, last May I headed to Washington, to Northwest Washington, and enrolled in I used my GI Bill and enrolled in Wilderness Awareness School. And people can look it up. And it used to be called Anaki, but they just they go over a ton of different stuff. And there's a year-long adult immersion where you meet 3 days a week for 8 hours a day, and then we'd take multiple, like 4 and 5 day trips. One trip was to the Oregon dunes, where it's just on the coast of Oregon, and it's just incredible. It's where the forest meets these sand dunes, and there's a state park there, and we went there for tracking the whole week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, with some professional trackers and camped, and like 26 of us students, and then like 8 and 10, 12. Well, there were some apprentices, so yeah, I mean 12.
Is that government funded and stuff? Is that government funded or privately?
The school?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's college credential level.
Okay.
Yep, but they do stuff for kids and summer camp and just an incredible place.
Okay.
And so I was there until this spring, early this spring, and then I headed for spring bear season and guided in Idaho, not in the Frank, but in Clearwater National Forest and northeast Idaho. We were Idaho-Montana border basically, but anyway, so I'm in Washington, and it's kind of a outdoor leadership / wilderness awareness, wilderness survival / inner work, or like just learning, almost like you'd learn at going to a psychologist, just bringing up old inner child wounds and things that have maybe kept us unhappy or just kept us not functioning great. Mm-hmm. And so that was part of the school too. I mean, just all around quite the place. And so I had guided a guy, and he lives up in Northwest Washington, and we're 45 minutes from Seattle, or an hour east. And he has property. He has a piece of property. How many acres? I don't know, 12 or something. But they're building a house on this property. It's out in the woods outside of Black Diamond, Washington, just a town of like 200. And he's got this property outside of there, and we still are friends. Well, obviously, but we had stayed connected. I guided him in an archery hunt in Montana in 2019 in the Swan Mountains, And we stayed in touch, and which is common when you're sleeping in a tent shoulder to shoulder with a person for 7 nights.
Yeah. Plus,
and then literally with them all day. Him and I spike camped, and so just him and I took a couple horses and a mule and went way out and pitched a camp literally in the middle of the elk, and then another guide kind of dropped us off and took all the horses, and so I didn't have to worry about the horses. And since we were camping in the elk, I pitched 2 tents. I made every 3 meals a day for him and I, and just to paint a picture a little bit of our friendship. And so I said, yeah, I'm going to school in Washington. And he's like, well, why don't you set your camper up on my land, on my property? We'd rather have somebody there anyway for safety.
Right.
And because they're building this awesome new house, and they were starting to get furniture and things like that moved in. And so I couldn't even see the house where I had my camper. There was a chunk of woods on his property, and we're surrounded by woods. I mean, it goes and goes and goes for miles, kind of to our east and south. And then to my north and west would have been like suburbs and stuff, like 10 miles away, but where the suburbs kind of started. So anyway, I guess I hopefully painted a little bit of a picture there, and one night it gets dark so early and stays dark late in the winter months, and we're pretty far north, up in northwest Washington there, and so it wasn't odd at all that he's got kind of a long driveway, and I had my dog, and it wasn't odd that I'd walk her up that driveway and towards his house, and there's woods on both sides, and let her stretch her legs and do her thing, and I was also up early a lot. I would try to do a workout before class, and I do well with yoga type stuff. I'm a lot of years of being of beating up my body, and now it's like nothing better than stretching. And so anyway, we'd do a 5:30 yoga class a few times a week minimum, and so it was a lot of times I had to walk my dog Macy, black lab. I had to walk her before I would leave and be gone until 4 or something. I'd take her along a lot too, especially if I worked out before class, so she wasn't in that camper so long, but she's older. And anyway, so one early morning, probably between 4:30 and 5, I'm on his driveway, and it's woods on both sides, and there's elk going through his property, and it's all private land around, and deer, elk, real occasional bear, and so a little bit, remote for him. It's remote for that part of the country. But so I'm walking up his driveway, and I'm up on top of the little knoll, and must have been a little bit of a moon, but because I couldn't see the ground, and it's all fern covered, like 2 to 3 foot tall ferns cover the forest ground there. And then his property was second growth. It had been lumbered. Oh, I think the trees the fir trees were 25 or 30 years old, and that's pretty accurate guess, I think. And so they don't, like on a tree farm, especially these fir trees, they don't grow low branches. The branching's more higher up on the tree. So, and they're probably, I don't know, 30 feet tall or something, but so out of nowhere, there wasn't any strange noises leading up to this or anything. Just absolutely everything's perfect, and out of nowhere, from my left and above me, there's at the same time that I'm seeing this black shadow. I mean, there's no, again, there's just, it's real hard to explain, but I'm seeing this black, pretty large size, I mean, just shadow, because I don't see any color. I don't see, and this is like the first, this is just absolutely in the blink of an eye. This is my description, is I don't know. I just see something black moving quick, and at this same time that this is happening, I got a shriek, not like it was a gosh, you know, the pterodactyl.
Yeah, like a thunderbird or whatever.
Yeah, can you picture like what we've seen in movies, I suppose, and what the noise one of those huge, large birds would make?
Okay.
Can you pick?
Like a shriek, like the shriek it would make, or like the wind?
Yeah. Just a piercing, loud noise in my face, in my ear.
Wow. And
a blue heron, if there's any real animal people out there, there's two things that their mind might go to right now, especially bird people, and I'm one of you. I'm a birder. but a blue heron, a heron makes a very sounds like a pterodactyl. And I bet you there's been people that have confused. They've thought they've had a cryptid encounter or something, a strange encounter, by just hearing a heron, because they have that kind of a pterodactyl, what we would think a pterodactyl would sound like, but they have like a dinosaur type sound. And so that's a blue heron. And another option for that, and this is going through my head in this split second, and a barred owl. And maybe you've never heard, but not all.
Very distinct sound.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking. Yeah, I'm not talking about they have that. Hoo, 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 hoo.
Yeah.
You know, the who cooks for who? Who cooks for who? That's the barred owl. But I believe it's the barred owl. I didn't double check this, and you know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I believe they're an owl that will dive bomb even deer, but even people.
Yeah.
And I suppose a territory type thing. And I don't know if they make a noise when they're doing it or not, but And so this is what's going through my head, right? I got taken off my feet. By the noise and by this black, about the size of I didn't get a great look. This is all in the corner of my eye. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I'm not seeing anything other than something black, and then I'm realizing it's coming at me, and it was already in my face. It was already right there, and it's like it was coming from the sky. And but the noise, it was so close to me and so loud that I don't know if it could have. I very well could have been an owl, and just screeched in my ear from feet away and swooped at me. And then, but here's the big kicker. I was so startled that I was on my right side. This came from my left. I was on the ground. I just took me off my feet. Nothing touched me. Right. And so I'm hitting the ground, and at the same time looking and putting my arms up, and then nothing. There wasn't a flap of a wing. You would have heard that. There wasn't this was along the driveway, so there was some taller bushes, and I know I said it's all fern covered and just 3 feet tall fern, and then you can see kind of over the top of them ferns for 50 yards in a lot of different directions in those type of forests. But there were some taller, I don't know what they were, just some bushes. And that if it was a bird or an owl, it would, and this is the middle of the night, and owls can see better at night, but the other birds aren't out much. Like some hawks, of course, too, definitely. But there wasn't. It's like it disappeared. There wasn't anything there.
Right.
And oh boy, I hope this makes sense a little bit, because it was the noise that I heard, what just took me right off my feet. And I'm not a jumpy person. Nobody can even scare me. We're messing around growing up. I don't even get scared when somebody jumps out and tries to scare me. I'm just kind of one of those people. But yeah, just nothing.
That's crazy.
And I got to thinking, okay, I've thought about this since then, here and there, and especially I shared that with the whole class that morning. But I don't know what else to say. I had thought about it a ton, and
it's one of those unexplained, like, it's in that category of the spruce beds.
Yeah,
it's unexplainable. It happened.
Yeah,
you can't put. You've been out there. You know what you know, and you know probably more than most that have been in the woods.
Yeah.
And you have no idea. You're just like, what was that? What, and you're floored because you can't figure. It's something you normally don't hear deep out in the woods.
No.
I don't mean to cut you off, but we got about 20 minutes of record time left, and I want to
hear your friend's experience or the other guide's experience.
Fellow guide, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go there. So this was, I was guiding with him in 2018, and it was after Tess and I had that, and this was that same year Tess and I had that, I saw that figure just...
Yeah.
One other... I don't even want to go there, but yeah. And so I'm processing all this over the next few weeks of that sighting of whatever I saw and what happened with us being paced, and I ran it by one of the other guides that had been guiding in this for this outfit for 7 years, and it was only my second year. And so I'm still at the Frank Church, but in 2017 I was guiding for a guy, an outfit, and then the next year his brother really had some hard, lost a couple of his real main guides right before the season, and so he has an outfit on the others, just kind of on the border of the Frank Church, and so he's the one where I was explaining where we had the horses staged, and so it's my first year meeting a couple of his other guides, and it was just Tess and I and Johnny, and then another guide. But I'm talking to Johnny, and it's just within, I don't know for sure, but within a week or two or three of what Tess and I had just experienced, and I asked Johnny if he'd ever had anything weird happen, and I was more specific. I don't know how I said all this, but I mentioned Sasquatch, and he kind of laughed and said, no, nothing, never had anything happen. And he was not a believer. I don't remember his exact words, of course, but it was clear that he'd never seen anything, and just, he was a professional bull rider before he started guiding, but just a great guy. He was a few years older than me at the time, and anyway, he said, but and then he went on to tell a story from one of his first year's guiding hunts. And I might have made a mistake when I said he'd been guiding for this same outfitter for 7 years. I think he had just been there a few years and was with a different outfitter for his first couple of years of his guiding, of his hunting guide career. So, because he was when he explained this to me, he was in a different part of the state. He was near Stanley. And, so that's how I'm putting two and two together that right now, but, well, I had before, but anyway, he was in his hunting camp with the outfitter he was working for and their clients, and they had just gotten back from a day of hunting and got the horses back, and he said they were sitting down, and a lot of times when you sit down to eat, you wait till the last guide and hunter come back for the day, and it might be 11 at night. It might be 7. I mean, it gets dark, starts getting dark earlier as the fall goes, but it's late. It's later and well past dark, and because we wouldn't stroll in till dark or later. So they're sitting in cozy camp and sitting down to eat, and all of a sudden they hear somebody yelling, and they're kind of like, well, that's strange, and they all piled out, shuffled out. It's dark, and they're in a backcountry outfitters camp, and they hear that they're all there, and then they hear some yelling and hollering, and they all shuffle out, and this guy comes up to him, comes kind of, I don't know, whatever, walking up to him. It was archery season, so he was all in camo. You don't have to wear, even in, well, yeah, some people wear orange in rifle, but you don't have to in Idaho. Anyway, it was archery season. I know that for sure because I know he was an archery hunter, from how Johnny was telling the story. But so this guy comes up, and Johnny noticed right away how shaken up this guy was, this hunter, and he was all alone. And they go into the cook tent, and he said the guy didn't say much, was just white as a ghost. And Johnny specified that, and this is coming from somebody that doesn't really believe in cryptids, Johnny. Right. And he said this guy was white as a ghost, clearly shaken up, not saying much, and they got out of him that he was a local and just archery hunting alone. And so the guy didn't say much that whole night, and just he asked if he could stay, and they said, of course, with whatever. And the guy who knows? I don't know exactly what happened. I'm not going to make something up, but that next morning, Johnny went up to him or whatever, and started talking to this guy before he left. And he was a local, and he hiked in a couple miles to where he archery hunts. And he said he was sitting. He had kind of a stream or a river to his back, and wasn't not in a tree stand. A lot of times we're not hunting out of tree stands out west like we do in archery season in the Midwest and out east. But I don't know if he was sitting with his back to a tree or a rock or something. Is kind of the usual setup. It breaks up your outline, and so the next thing he knows, he gets this hunter gets a huge rock, comes up over the ground, all the brush and low bushes or whatever's there, up and over, arching, and lands just right in front of him. And he just thought, whatever I don't know what he thought, but I know what I'd be thinking is who's messing with me right now? Yeah. Right? Who's out here that's strong enough to throw this rock, over this? That's what I'd be thinking.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if it was one or two more rocks. I just don't remember the story that Johnny was relaying, but something, a rock that a man could not physically throw up and over these bushes or trees or whatever, and landing right next to him. And he got up and for whatever reason, he didn't go back to where his truck was. He knew this outfit had their tents, and I want to say he ran there, but I don't remember completely the story, but he went to this hunting camp, this outfitters camp, and just showed up, and then I already kind of filled you in on that, what he how he was acting when he showed up, and how that all went down. But again, is it a story that's gonna blow the socks off somebody and face-to-face encounter with a, whatever? But this is a story coming from a hunting guide who doesn't believe in anything cryptid, who's relaying, only because I asked if he'd heard or seen anything weird, and he still remembered that time that a hunter showed up into his camp, white as a ghost, and I'm not going to speculate, but who knows? Did that hunter that archery hunter that got scared out of there? Who knows what he saw? Maybe nothing. Maybe it was just the size of a rock being thrown at him that made him not even he must have knew that this outfitter camp was closer than his truck, because he was so scared that, I guess I'm not assuming, but maybe I am a little bit. He was so scared that he went to the closest location,
the safest spot where he could go.
Mm-hmm. And another part of this story was that Johnny told me was that he was supposed to be out there for a week or 10 days, and this was like day 1 or 2, and so when Johnny was talking to him that morning, he waited till daylight, and he was walking out back to his truck. He was done. He was going home. He was a local, which would have been around Stanley, Idaho, and if you think of a postcard of Idaho, it's Stanley. I mean, the Sawtooth Mountains and stuff, but
yeah.
I mean, I've never forgot that, and
it's a powerful story. I mean, for you especially, because you know this guy, you know who he is,
He's a bull rider. He's as tough as nails. And you should have seen the horses he was getting on because there's guide horses and client horses, and guides turn the horse into a client horse, right? Just by
riding him,
breaking it in. And Johnny, before the season, he was the one that was up there with Tess and I. He wasn't with Tess and I that day of our encounter, but he was that other guide that was there before the season with us and packing in these camps. And so he was getting on 2- and 3-year-old unbroke horses that I know one of them was his buddies, and Johnny was breaking it for him and stuff. And he'd get on a horse that had never had anybody on him. And we're outside of Edwardsburg, and that's 3 hours for help. And you're getting on a green young horse that could, if you fall and break your leg or have a bone go through your leg, and you could bleed out and die.
Yeah.
I mean, cut an artery on your main artery on your leg or whatever, and you're dead.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of guy Johnny was. He just no fear, no bullshit, no fear. And I'm grateful that he relayed that story to me, and the reason I chose to relay that tonight is because it's significant to me. Because of his background and who he is. And it wasn't a story about him. I mean, right? It's like, he didn't make that up.
But for him to hold that story, like
he
you
held
said,
that story.
That must have resonated with him for
Mm-hmm. That hunter that showed up into the hunting camp he was in.
Yeah.
Never forgot that.
Yeah.
He said he never forgot that, and I never. Johnny telling me that, I
crazy.
won't forget it either.
No.
But
we're coming up on time.
I suppose.
I blown away once again by your experiences. It's insane, the amount of just things that people wouldn't really think of that are actually terrifying, until you hear them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Until you hear it, you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And when you're vulnerable and in a vulnerable position, whether you're in a house and somebody's intruding on your house and you're worried for your life there, or you're in the middle of the most remote wilderness area in the lower 48 and something happens, you are exposed, you are vulnerable, and you're going to learn a lot about yourself and how you
and very quickly.
And then it's a reality check that this is real life.
Yep.
This isn't it's not a joke. And when I had something, these things happen, I gotta live with it and I gotta swallow that, and I gotta be with people every day, all day, who don't even have a clue what's going on.
Right.
And so.
Well, I want to thank you for coming back and sharing these experiences with us. As you could tell from the comment section, you looked into it and commented back on quite a few people. People really, really enjoyed hearing what you had to say, and I really appreciated it because it was enlightening. It was just something different that really put things into perspective too. So thank you.
Yeah, it's 100% just my pleasure, and
do me a favor, don't hang up.
Okay.
I want to end the interview, and once again, thank you for coming on, and it's been great. I really appreciate it.
Yep. All right, thank you, and thank you to your family.
Well, they're all of us, man.
Yeah,
you're a member too, so.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Have a good night.
Yep. I'll stay on, but we'll see you.
And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed the second half as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go. And honestly, what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please, everyone, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.